All right, a very, very good, in my case, late evening, but a very good morning to everybody out there. Warrior Junior, the fight always continues. The way that I see things, the battle never ends. You can stand down from yellow alert uh, when you're in your own dwelling, unless somebody tries to break in, and then it will be beyond red alert. Um, as I say. But that's not what's really important. I guess we're going to talk about my recap for this evening. Um, hmm, as you know, I am a fan of certain teas, specific teas. This is the chai spice. I've talked about this one before. They carry it at Pavilions. It's O Organics. It's like $3. You get like 20 of packs of stuff like this. It's got a really good kick to it. It's like I don't know, probably a little caffeine in there, but it's nothing like coffee. So, I recommend if you need like a little caffeine, go with tea. Get off of coffee. That stuff is just. I mean, the last coffee that I ever had was like I remember I didn't drink coffee for a very very long time. And then I was like, let me go into Starbucks. Let me get one of those mochas things, the big one. And I was over at my friend Ruben's place, and I drank that thing and I was like just wired. I mean, it's like it sounds funny, but it's like no, no, it's not good for you. Of course, it tastes fantastic. That's the whole idea. But I'll never forget the side effect. And I don't want that ever again. So just avoid it completely. You know, look, this is I'm not going to get into food and stuff like that, but when you're younger, you can do this shit. Like I drank whatever I wanted, and different beers and shit like that, and then ate whatever I wanted. And because your body is functioning at maximum, like it can process all that shit. But what happens is it catches up, and what happens, the time adds up, and your body, time adds up, your body wears down. And what happens, even if you keep yourself in first class condition, the parts get old. Like you can't this organism. It's a biological entity, organism, the human thing. It doesn't last forever, no matter what. Even Jack LaLanne, he even said, if man makes it, I don't need it. Yeah, he outlasted every. I remember he was on a show in the '50s. I think it was Groucho Marx. It was like in black and white, and the people all smoking and cigars and all that shit. I guarantee he outlasted everybody that back then. But it's still, I guess what you want is that when you get up there in the age, you want that decent ability to function. Like if you can do that. But you gotta have some type of balance. I mean, if you can't enjoy yourself when you're alive, what's the point of being around? I mean, I always tell people that what are you, just breathing to work? To pay the rent, to put gas in the car, so somebody else can make money off you. I don't know. I don't know. I got a little different mindset than most people. Um, I hate to categorize most people, but I do. I do that because I kind of am proud of my ability to stick my neck out there, to take chances. So what happened tonight? I did my usual walk, and I got to that club thing, and I was hanging around there. I saw like sheriffs across the street, and they're just standing there observing. And I know they were looking at me because it's kind of odd to see a guy just kind of standing around outside the club while like looks like I'm casing the place or something, but I'm not. I'm just kind of like, there's a lot of people there, and I was like, all right, well, that's if I see something good, I could work on my pickup, like that's you know, there's a saying like this guy was talking about, like when you're a kid, you want to like in the sandbox where all the kids are that's where the good stuff is. You're off on your own, off on something. You're by yourself. You generally ain't gonna find anything. So you have to go where the action is. It's not going to come to you. So I go to these places. I mean, and I know it's mostly like a gay thing, but there's tons and tons of straight women that go, and I'm just playing the numbers. I'm looking at, all right, well, if I see something I like, go for it, go for it. And there really wasn't. Again, I've been very disappointed lately with all these places. There's just, maybe it's my age or something. There was this one black chick. She was all right, like, and I, what happened? I guess she's with a guy. I don't know if he's gay or something. They kind of were holding hands as they were leaving. So I just kind of felt, boy, when I see that the hand holding, that's like really, what are you gonna get like off somebody that's when you try the approach, you never know. Well, it's eh, look, I'm not perfect. I told you, I'm not. I try to stay on all the time. Like, but look at the gym. When I left the gym today, there was a chick walking up the stairs. I was going down the escalator. Well, actually, no, she was going down too as well. And I was looking at her, and she did look back but I don't know what happened. I was so tired after my box. No idea like what I put myself through. And it's funny that sometimes these women show up. Like when I was walking the gym, this hot chick was on the other side of the road, and there was no way I could cross. And I'm on my way to the gym, so for me to stop, try to engage her, then walk all the way back. I mean, that's like, well, you can't expect things to be perfect. I know that, but you have to make your priorities where your life comes first. Before you do anything, you can't just be this monger running around trying to meet women, because then it shows you have no life and no aspirations. You know, look, I know that, because you see, it's like, because then it just comes off of being desperate and needy. And if you come off that way, it conveys your lower social status, and it just doesn't work. That's the problem with almost any pickup, is you kind of have the tendency to come off that way, the needy and desperate, and I hate that. It's like, I mean, I don't even need to talk about celebrities, because they're irrelevant. Their status is so high that they don't relate. It's like a catch-22 when I go to the gym, because I'm so focused on what I'm doing, and in my mind I'm hoping that it would be nice if one of these women really relate to me. Like, look at that guy! Wow, he's so dedicated and working his ass off, kind of thing. And you figured, look, they're not going to come up to you. Well, you know what? I don't. What the problem with our society is, that everybody, is so scared to do things differently. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's like public ridicule. Nobody wants to, look, I don't know if anybody's recording me when I'm doing my thing, and I wouldn't like that. I heard that if you're in an establishment and somebody's recording you without their permission, you can, go and take their phone from them, tell them to stop. But I don't have time to do that. Like, I think in one gym I got kicked out. Some dude was like, he was recording me, his positioning, like, and it's just, I call it the GP, general population, you know, and it's very easy to get mad at GPs. I call them asteroids. You call them whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It's like, you're supposed to, if you have good character, it's like you're supposed to respect everybody, but don't take shit from anybody, and don't let anybody step on you. Now, it's kind of interesting, because they say there's three types of people out there, and it's funny, because there's like a dominatrix place, like they got like leather and shit, and I walk by it all the time. I don't go in. There's nothing for me there, but there's three, and it shows like the models, the dummies, they're dressed up. Where one is like spanking, what the one. Now, the one that's doing the spanking is the dominator, dominatrix, right? Dominating. The one taking it is the submissive, right? And in life, most people fall into one or two categories. They're either the sub or they're the dominator, right? But then there's something called the third person that doesn't relate, is neither. They're the assertive person, which is quite rare. And this is the person that I am. And it took me a while to learn exactly what this is because it's very easy to confuse a dominating person to an assertive person. Um, a lot of people, like, in my gym, the gays, that one guy a couple weeks ago that just took my shit without asking me off of a pylon box, pilometric box or whatever. It took him a second to look around and see if it was, how many times I see other people's stuff on there and I never say a word. But, I approached him and I told you whatever the situation. I'm not going to repeat the whole story, but he went down, eventually complained. The manager, not manager, the guy working there at the front desk at night, told me after he heard my story, he says, "Well, you were very aggressive," is what he said when you approached him. And I said, "Look, somebody touches my stuff for no reason. I was being assertive." A big difference. They love to use that word aggressive. In life, if you don't stand up for yourself, nobody else will. I know, well, there's courts and there's laws and let me tell you something. If you get into a confrontation with somebody and somebody punches you in the face and you go to the hospital, okay, and then they gotta go to court, let's see the guy gets caught, you still got to deal with the fucking wound that somebody fucking punched you in the face. And then you got to go to the hospital. So it's like, my whole point is like, well, okay, of course, the idea is not to allow that to happen, is to move to avoid this. But as in life, when I'm using the term punched in the face, I mean verbally too. You can avoid dealing with people that will try to take cheap shots at you. That's the term cheap shots refers to comments trying to get you pissed off. And it's very, very easy for somebody with a fragile ego, which I hate to say it, most people do have, because they're not trained. They're not mentally strong in that department to deflect the curveballs. Somebody calls you a name, for example, gets you pissed off. They got under your skin. Done something, just to get under your skin, to get a rise out of you. Try to become, like, in my mind, I think about, like, the Jedi. I know Star Wars, I know, but I think about it like it's like a prestigious thing, a Jedi Master. Like it's like they're not a normal person. Like, you can't, their mind is too strong. Like, that's what I think of. So when somebody tries to get your attention with a lowball comment, a smart remark, like, it doesn't pretend that they're like the Gamorrean guards, just don't even, they're nothing. Remember the Gamorrean guards in Return of the Jedi? They fucking talk like they really can't understand. It's like snarls and growls and everything like that. And Luke just, when he went into Jabba's palace, he just like got the hood over and he just like pointed at it and he just killed him like with his easily. You could do that verbally through ignoring them. I put my hand up one time like this to somebody that was talking. It drove them fucking nuts, okay? It went like this. Use the force on them with this. They will not have a leg to stand on. That's how you make yourself different. You don't have to prove it. You can prove it through your actions. There's so many random events that happen. I know people will try to throw curveballs at you like when you least expect it. But if you've been around for a while, it's like, just don't give it to them. Don't give them what they want. Think about that. It's like a baby crying. They want that attention. And if they raise their voice, it's the same thing. As an adult, do not engage them. Or end it like as fast as possible. Make sure, like you tell them, I will not sink to your level. I can't relate to you. I'm sorry, you're too far beneath me. You just end it there. I can't have a conversation with an immature person that's not willing to learn. You have to like pretend you're the teacher. No matter what this person's age is or anything. Don't matter if they're older than you. There's plenty of dumb people out there that are old, that are uneducated, narrow-minded. So what happened was, yeah, I noticed the sheriffs, they might have been observing me, but I don't know, and the thing is, I really tried not to let that infect my mission. They're there just for whatever reason. I'm there for my reason. And what I did was I saw somebody fall in the street, like in the middle of traffic. And I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna walk. I walked down the street. I thought maybe the cops would see what the hell I was looking at or following, because I thought they were looking at me, but apparently not. They did not move from their position. So just when you think you know exactly like who's watching, what's going on, you could be completely wrong. I mean, me personally, I think I'm just so jaded in my life from, it's like, well, the reason you do things is because it's learned behavior. You were taught to do it that way. I don't know if it's learned behavior. It's just, um, you can only do so much. Um, and I hate that word hard. Life is hard. I know I repeat that. I told this to my friend. I said, well, no, life is challenging. It's a challenging. And that's why it feels hard. But, it's just weird. I also thought of something sometimes when things aren't going your way. I have a tendency to say this to myself. I go, man, what is God is punishing me? I said that to myself. Then all of a sudden, then recently I started saying, wait a second. That's all in here. God is punishing me, is what I'm saying. I said, well, wait a second. What about like society is attempting to punish me or something? That might be a little more realistic. When you do things your own way, you're going to get that feeling, guaranteed. It's just like society is because you're doing things differently. you're not doing what everybody else does. I mean, I told you how my stance is on women. I'm very selective. Now, when I was walking home, there was this other club, private club thing. You know, I don't like to stand out there too much because, you know, the elements, even though it's very close to my where I live, it's just a real kind of young, thuggy kind of crowd, you know, and I don't like that. And I'm really not trying to belittle or demean, um, races or anything, but you know, it's there were like 8 chicks that were there was four, two, and two, and I looked them over as I was walking down, getting ready to take the cross the street as I was going home, and they just did not fit my qualifications. I like what I like, you know. You know, I have a general kind of idea in my mind what fits my frame, you know, what fits my vision. I'm usually like either yeah, I know instantly. Usually, there are some there's that what I call that gray area, you know, between the nah and the yep. There's like that gray area in there which you know has potential, you know, could be. Um, and that's sometimes a little problem for me because when I see those women that fall into that gray area and then I start procrastinating, and then I'm saying, well, if I try to engage and be with somebody, you know, I know I said this 10 million times, but I say this to remind myself. I mean, can you imagine, you know, like wherever and a girl is with a guy, maybe even holding a hand or something, and you're going to go in there? Jesus, you know, like it's like asking for problems 101, you know, like maybe okay, maybe let's you know, you see a guy with a girl just sitting or something, and the guy was like kind of fondling the the chick, and I took like as I was walking, I took a good look at her, right, and the guy like looked back at me like it's just amazing, like he didn't say anything, but I know he was just being defensive. He was just worried, like, "What are you looking at?" He didn't say that, but I could read him, and it's like they just don't get it. If a dude is confident, he's not worried about anybody looking at his chick because he knows it's his. You're not going to take it from him. But some of these guys are just weak-minded fools. You know, I'm sorry, another Star Wars reference, but you know, they are. If they're that defensive, now if they say something, they're ultimately, I mean, they're beyond it. If they say something, they are truly a fool. There's no question. Now, if you do an approach in trying to hit on, then it's warranted. They're just defending. That's not. But I'm saying if you're just looking, and a guy says, "What are you looking at, my girl?" You know, that's a fool. Okay, that's a ego. That's a weak-minded, um, you know, fragile ego fool. Okay, I can crush I can crush people like that. You met her somehow. Well, you didn't look. You didn't. You know. Now I have friends. I have a friend that's a a submissive, and he goes, "What did you say? I can. God said, gave me eyes to look. You know, like you can give. You can say a pussy statement like that if you want, but you know, it just makes you look like a wimp. You know, like and when you act like a wimp, you will be treated as such. and not just from other guys. Women smell that. They know. Believe me, they know. It's hard to be bold, my friends. It's hard to be bold. But let me tell you something. If you're like me, that's the only way to be. It's better to be bold. I heard that it's better to live one day as a lion than 100 years as a sheep. I know it sounds cliche, and I know it sounds like, oh, but it's the absolute truth. My friend, I have another friend, an older guy, he told me, you're going to get stabbed, you're going to get shot. Don't you watch the news? I listen to the news on the radio, and you know what? I only have one thing to say about that. Then good. That's the mentality that I have. Or at least I'm working constantly on. Because I feel like my fear is like a fucking glacier. It's like as thick as like the Antarctic ice, it's unbelievable what because I didn't have anybody to teach me. Okay, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody that really understood paralyzing fear, and especially dealing with women. Okay, I had nobody to help me. I did go to some PUA things, and you get tough love from some of these people. But some of them I just did not like. You know, some of their advice, okay, was the volume. Playing volume thing, and but I need at that time. You know, look, sometimes you have to experiment with things, and the people, the average, guys are not going to do that. They don't want to be laughed at. They don't want to be, made fun of. It takes tremendous courage to do things abnormally. A lot of dudes are just not going to do that for a couple of reasons. Mostly the main reason is they're afraid, and then what they do is they weigh it out, and then they just go, it's not worth it. It's just too much. It's like trying to scale Mount Everest without having the equipment. And what happens is you can start up Everest, it's you can walk, right? Till the grade starts, until the grade starts going up, and you can go in your shorts if you want, and you will make it up about 5% of the way, and then you will not be able to go any further because you don't have the equipment. Why do I talk? What does mountain climbing have to do with you know trying to meet women or trying? It has everything to do with challenging your fears and being prepared to scale the mountain, to get to the peak, the goal. You have to have all the tools. In pickup, the tools are the gift of gab, is being able to present yourself properly. And a gift of gab also, what I mean is it's convincing, it's conversation, it's being able to hold your frame, it's being able to deflect, guys, trying to get a rise out of you. Um, it's confidence, it's showing experience, it's all these things. It's knowing what to say and how to say it perfectly. It's knowing how to keep that woman's attention so that she'll call you. It's everything. So, you know, in a way, it's like the mountain climbing thing. In that backpack, there's enough food to keep you alive. There's the equipment that you need to be able to scale that higher elevations. Maybe even one of the sleeping thing. You know, the sleeping bag or the tents in there. Everything. It's everything's in there to survive, to make it. And if you don't have something in that with you that you need to get to the top, your odds are you're not going to make it. It's the same thing like pickup. You have to have all the tools have to be there. I don't know. I don't. I see people together all the time. I don't know how they met or where they met. Maybe their mentality just take whatever they can get kind of mentality. Think good for them. Good for them. You know, if they're happy, good for them. I just have my take. I just know me. I know how I'm wired. And I know how hard it is. That's the reality for me. And again, I hate using that word, but you know, it's like yeah, challenging, but it feels like difficult. I hate challenging implies like it's something that you just have to keep getting, but it can be beaten. But man, based on my life experience, fuck, it's like when they're young and beautiful, like they got it. It's like everybody knows, every guy knows that when they're old. It's like then they talk to me. It's like at least my attitude is good when I went to those dances. I spent like $100 on a taxi to get back, from Anaheim to Hollywood. It's better than losing it in a casino. But at least I tried. At least I went to these things. I tried. That's all you can do, right? Irvine cost me more. Ironically, at the end of that night, there was two chicks in the lobby. I saw them they were dancing, but they weren't there for very long. I wound up talking to the one yeah, there was one that was really, I guess there was a dude there with, but he wound up going upstairs to check out the thing as they were finishing up, and I moved in. And I tried to talk to her for as long as I could. I got a couple minutes in, you know. So let's see, what will be in? Maybe it'll be in Anaheim next week. So I was like, great, I'll be there too. They didn't show up. I looked for her. Oh well. What a fucking schlep that was. Get all the way to Irvine. Took the Metrolink and fucking walked from Tustin. Felt like I was walking on a freeway on Jamboree Road. It's like the first time in my life. It'll be the last time too. I cannot believe I was literally scared. I cannot believe that I was on the shoulder, and it comes to that road, that Jamboree Road does, it's like a highway, which it does turn into a regular street a couple miles past, but I was on it where it was a fucking highway. These cars are flying by me. It looked like a freeway. Me and my thing, I had to get there though. Like I couldn't find the side street that could keep me going. I did get off at the first exit, but it felt like I was walking on a freeway. Um, I guess you haven't done everything in life till you've done that. So, if you want to know what it's like to walk on a freeway, there you go. And you can say you've done it all, right? I told some of these women when I finally made it there, I was dancing. You have no idea what I went through to get here. And the other one chick goes, "Oh, the traffic," and I just the traffic on the freeway. Yeah, traffic. I'm in the slow lane walking. I see. No, there was no traffic in my lane, is what I said. So, try to make light of it. I walked for miles and miles, and I got to this place, and I danced my ass off. I'd never been so tired in my life at this. And I said, "There's no fucking way." Irvine closes down at like midnight. You can't. The airport closes. There's no fucking way. I had to take a taxi home. I knew it. I'd be dead. Oh, I can laugh about it now, but it's just sad. Went all the way down there. You think you'd hook up. You think you'd be, and that's okay. I'll open up. I'll be honest about my life dancing and stuff like that, and how that equated to you know. There's a thing called HDV, and I don't really talk about it too much, but it stands for high definition value. Wait, hold on. Let me try this. I've been up a little long time, so hold on. Not high definition, high demonstration value. I apologize. See, I make mistakes. HD television, right? So high demonstration value. Um, it's like it's a tactic, that you if you can do something to separate you from all the other guys. So my thing is like dancing, freestyle dancing. So I go to the clubs and I start doing my thing, and I'm kind of versatile because I've been doing it for 25 years. So that's hopefully you get pretty good. And if you and not to brag or have an ego, but I put many years into this, so it's like a power thing um, that I have. Now the thing is, mostly I dance for me, but the whole thing is, you'd like to use that as leverage. You want to use anything you have. Now a celebrity doesn't need to use high demonstration value. That's all they have to do is show up. And if somebody recognizes them from television, that's their, you know, they don't have to say a fucking word. But in my case, if it's a talent that you don't have worldwide recognition, you have to use everything you can to get what you want. I'm sorry, that's how it works. You don't have to be a great dancer, um, but some guys they have really good gift of gab. Their approaches, or they have a great look. They have a great build with their presence or their height or something. Whatever it is. And my problem is the lack of confidence. It's like it's crushing. And the reason it's lack of confidence is because lack of experience and lack of success. If you had some successes going, all of a sudden you become a little more naturally confident. But without any success, then it's like you're not going to be confident, or unless somebody, and it's hard for me. I'm just talking about me. It would make sense though, as a general rule, you wouldn't have much confidence if you weren't successful in something, because you don't you don't have maybe enough experience in it to become successful. So yeah, I went to that thing in Irvine and danced a lot, but I really, it was like because COVID thing was kind of coming to an end, so I enjoyed it, and the music is great. If I can't, good music is like that's euphoric for me to dance. I mean, I can go dancing to these gay places, but the music sucks, and it's just not conducive to really bringing out my best, and I don't enjoy it. So if I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to do it. And then the next week when I went to Anaheim, the venue sucked. So, kind of like took the wind out of my sails from wanting to really try to enjoy myself. It's tough. Kind of picky, I like what I like. And a lot of guys do too. Now, I do have to admit, the further you get away from Los Angeles, people seem to be a little more authentic. I think Las Vegas has changed a lot. The last time I was there, I got a little bit of a different vibe, which kind of surprised me. I'll digress. I'll explain that. The Strip used to have a lot of relatively cheap places to stay. Uh, and they catered, I remember it was like the Barbary Coast on the corner across from the Bally's. They had like 24 hours. They had a little cafe on the corner, restaurant, like $2.99 steak and eggs, like 24 hours. And then right next door was Imperial Palace. And these were relatively cheap places to stay. And then you had your Caesars across the street, which was more high end, Mirage and everything like that. And there were a lot of like really kind of motels that were lined up, the Algiers or whatever, I forget, the Tam O'Shanter, the real small. They're right across from like Treasure Island Mirage. They're always booked up. And so, you could stay really cheap, and it was like you could eat cheap too. So what happened? What happened was like around 2000, I would say. Now, there was a family that owned the block of those cheap motels. I talked about the Tam O'Shanter, the occupancy 100%. They're not selling those properties. And I think it was the Venetian Corporation, the Plaza, whatever, they own the whole. And they said, we got it. We have to get this land. And his family that owned those rinky-dink they approached him and said, you interested in selling? And they said no. And that's when they had to like really dig deep. And what I mean by that is, if you you need that land, you better be willing to dig deep pockets, and that's what they did. They said, we're not selling. We got 100% occupancy rate. We know where we are here. Now, so guess how much the Venetian Corporation offered this family that owned these rinky-dink motels. This is in the late 90s, I think it was. They offered them, I'll let you take a guess. What? A couple million, maybe, maybe 5, 10, 20 million, maybe? Maybe like 25 million, right? And it'd be 50 million, right? What about 100 million? 100 million? What about 500 million? What about a billion? They offered him $1 billion, and they took it. They had to have that land. And this is over 20 years ago. $1 billion 20 years ago is probably like 5 or 6 billion today, maybe. So they tore those down, those garbage things. They built the Venetian and the Palazzo next door. And I want to share the story. It's pretty interesting. But my point was, what was my point? My point was that, okay, oh, okay. So they built this high end stuff. The Barbary Coast became the Cromwell, and the Imperial Palace is gone. So what the cheap, these cheap places. Now there is Circus, still there are Harrah's and stuff like that. But I want to make my point about this. The high end came in, and the high end equates to, like, there's a type of, how do I say this? It's like, I don't know if it equates to people's egos, tougher to meet people, like Beverly Hills kind of attitude-ish kind of thing. Now, I've been to Tijuana before, and it was really easy to meet women there. So I'm trying to make like a relative point about how that high end kind of thing is like, it kind of makes things more difficult, because most people that go to these high end places, their needs are met. And those chicks in Tijuana, they need money. So you have value there, you have power there. Unfortunately, I've been there twice. The cops ruin it for that. So, but hey, I stuck my neck out there. I went there twice. Had to see. That'd be an interesting. I'll talk about, the something. Yeah, the needs are met kind of thing. Because it's kind of important. It's very important to understand. Um, it's like, if the bar is that high, the only people that have more power are the people that are above that. And a lot of women, they invest so much in their looks. That I've always wondered that. It's like, they dress up. They dress up for who? Well, it's to show everybody. Yeah, and then, like, I see something I like, and then they just basically try to get me out of there. Like, I'm so far beneath them, and then that triggers that can crack my frame. Even for me. See, I'm human too, but there's nothing worse than seeing what you like, and then somebody telling you, get lost. Like, you have no business even trying. Like, you're so far beneath me, kind of thing. And that's what they're saying. They don't have to say it, but they lead that on, and then it creates like frustration, in me, because it's like, why can't I try? Like, why I'm being bold, like, you're I think, like you should be rewarded. In my mind, it's like, now in the movies, of course, the bold guy, is the hero, but that's in the movies, it's, the, yeah, you want to cheer for the protagonist or whatever. But in real life, just because you're bold, you could be laughed at, ridiculed, embarrassed, made fun of, a subject of, you know, believe me, man, most people, they're not gonna fucking do it. They're gonna take one look at that mountain, and they're gonna go, fuck this. It's not worth it. It's not that. Yeah, it's not worth it. I could just watch whatever, Pornhub or whatever. But my friends, let me tell you something, and this is coming from somebody that has been around quite a while. There is an immense difference. an immense difference between watching one of these things, I don't care if it's jabberbait or whatever, and getting the real thing. It's an immense difference. It's not even comparable. It's, light years. And the problem is that, most people, they're not willing to climb through the 500 yards of the most foulest smelling sewer to get that. Now, I use that analogy. That's from the Shawshank Redemption. A great movie if you've never seen it. Andy Dufresne, I almost said Tony Robbins, Tim Robbins, Morgan Freeman. And he's like, the Andy Dufresne is like wrongly convicted. He was like at the scene of a crime or something, and they pinned it on him, and he was innocent. But he wound up getting life. Life with the possibility of parole after 30 years, some ridiculous amount of time. 20, 25, 20, 30, 40, so it was a long time. And Morgan Freeman, I forget, Red was his name. He also got life, for whatever he did. He was young, like he killed somebody or something, but it was like in self-defense or something, and they just didn't have like the, he didn't have the money to defend, to have like, a good lawyer or anything, so he wound up getting like a life sentence with the possibility of parole after, 40 years, some ridiculous thing. So what happens is they're in there, and a relationship starts. This type of connection to talk. They relate with each other. About life and what they did, and the Red couldn't believe like this guy was telling him the truth. Like he's, I didn't do it, and he's like, the inside joke, we all didn't do it. That was. And so what happened? But what you don't see is Dufresne has a plan, and they don't really show you. But what he does, it's a spoiler alert. So if you don't want to know, stop watching now and watch the movie. But I'm going to tell you what happens. And it's called The Shawshank Redemption. He has this little kind of file. It's a file, a little hammer, very small. And he sees in his cell, the walls are made out of this type of like clay composite. It's not solid brick. And he works on it. And day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, he chisels a giant hole in there, covers it up with a poster. And after like 25 years, basically he's able to chisel a big enough thing for him to get through, and leads to like the sewer of the prison. And he's got to climb through like the shit. That's where all the shit is. So just when you think, oh, he's free, he breaks his way out, but no, he's got to go through like 500 yards of the foulest smelling shit and everything. It's like throwing up in there and everything. It's like ridiculous. Why am I talking about? What does this have to do with anything? It has to do with everything. It has to do with absolutely everything. So even when he thought he was free, he still had to go through more shit. Literally. He winds up getting through. And it happens to be like raining, and you see like he's out there, he's like free, right? But he knew he had to keep moving. They're gonna find out he escaped. It's just interesting, you know? And then that all comes back on this fucking warden that you know, that was actually guilty. It was great. That's why it's called the Shawshank Redemption. Morgan Freeman's character, Red, winds up coming up for parole like every 10 or 15 years. And at the end, he just like, you know, kept getting rejected. And he just goes, I just don't give a fuck anymore. He tells them and they granted his thing. They let him go when he was already old, you know, for spending 50 years or so in jail and prison. And he just had a very difficult time adapting to regular life. But at the very end, they wind up meeting up like on a beach or something. It's really cool, you know? It's like what you're willing to go through to get whatever it is you want out of life. I just find it very interesting. You know, it's the ultimate challenge in my mind. Sorry, tea was good. I think, you know, the problem is that most people kind of like do things the same way. You know, go get some job, so a little money, and add it up and save and try to add up. And you know, there was a security guy up the block from me, and you know, I told you I had like 4-stage cancer, you know, or something. One of the game chemotherapy. I saw him the other day. He's like, you know, he's like in a wheelchair. But that's, you know, besides the point. What I was trying to get at was, he told me, he said, you know, when he was doing security work for like 10 years, you know, he saved up like 10,000 a year for 10 years, 100,000. Back then, you know, that was enough for him to get his condo. It's like, okay, you know, that's 10 fucking years. Why is it you limit yourself to, you know, okay, well, 10,000 1 year and then 2 years? Why can't you somehow figure out a way creatively to snowball that money? I mean, 10 years is a very long time. And I'm not saying stocks. I'm not saying cryptocurrency. I don't know. But it's just like this generic kind of way of thinking that, like, and then the same security guy, he just basically, was talking about, whoa, when I'm done with this, I'm gonna go live somewhere else. He was just talking out of his ass. Like 73 years old or 72. I said, why haven't you figured that out now? I hate to tell you, but it's too late. And I did, you're gonna hurt somebody's feelings, but I told him that I was honest. If you really care about somebody, you will tell them the truth. What you feel is the truth. And usually they don't want to hear it. You're hurting their feelings. You're hurting their ego. You might upset them. But you know what? If you really care about somebody, you're going to be fucking honest with them. And that's hard to do. That's real hard to fucking do. But you have to. Because if you're lying to yourself, you're lying to them. That's manipulation. That's not, the right way to be. That's the problem. People don't want they want to sugarcoat things. They don't want to get you upset. They don't want to kill your dream. But you know what? Some dreams are just not practical. They're not. Like you hear about these people that, were trying to make it in entertainment for decades and then finally they made it. Yeah? How many people are there out there that tried for decades and they never made it? You're seeing the handful of people that did. They broadcast those people. It's almost like hitting the lotto. Do you know how many years, how long I've gone out dancing and practiced my ass off? Never got discovered. Never got an agent. Appeared on a couple television shows. Didn't make any money. There's a guy that I know. He's like, I don't know how old he is. Like a street performer. And, he just doesn't look good. Something, I don't know if he's got diabetes or some type of serious health problem. He's like really overweight, kind of waddles. But I saw him in his prime. And dude could get down. Okay. And I talked with him. I know who, he's been around a long time. But you just never thought, I don't know, it just seems like you didn't think to do anything else. Like, no plan. It's gonna be like this one guy, one man show, entertainer, street performer thing. No backup plan, no nothing. I told him, I said, got on a lot of people recorded him over his probably 35 years of street performing. So why don't you put together like DVD compilation of like your best performances and sell them, like have them right there. So when people like, they come to see you, instead of giving $1, they give you $10 for that DVD and you sign it for a second. They have something to remember you by. This is called being klieg in life, being smart in Yiddish and Jewish. That's how we call it. He doesn't get it. These CDs. No, a DVD with your thing on it. It costs nothing to make. Okay, maybe whatever. You buy volume of them. The guy's been doing this shit forever. He's got a car. I mean, you can't afford a couple $100 investing, and you spent your whole life doing it. He just doesn't. I mentioned it to him, and he's just like, yeah. You're performing live. You've been doing this for your whole life, and you made nothing. Because you have to understand something. The reason why people like Charlie Chaplin became like immortal, okay, because you see, it wasn't that Charlie Chaplin was a phenomenal talent. comedian and everything. If you watch some of his stuff, like his early stuff, where he does the roller skating blindfold, you know, the dude is okay. But what made Charlie Chaplin a real master was that he wrote, produced, filmed, and starred in his own movies. As the movie industry was in its infancy, it was just getting started. A one-man machine. They cast people and everything, just like kind of like Lucas did. But Chaplin did it 100 years ago. Started with the tramp character. But he did lots of films with that. If you want to see something unfucking believable, watch Modern Times. Fucking unbelievable. And that one, I forget what the other one. Yeah, Modern Times, and there's the other one where like he has to box. You know, it's unfucking believable to make money. You know, to help this blind girl, this girl that he likes. Unfucking believable. Actually, I'm trying to look to see the name of. Let me look and see. Let me get the name of it real quick. Hang in there, folks. Hang in there. We'll get the name of Modern Times and no, it's not that one. City Lights. Okay. Yeah. Modern Times and City Lights. Check out City Lights. That's the one where he does the boxing things. It's unfucking believable. I mean, that dude is like. So what happened? So he did the tramp character for a while, and then he said, "All right, well, he's getting a little bit older now." And then he did that movie where he plays like the Hitler like impersonator, but it's not. You know, it's supposed to be like a spoof on him, the great dictator. And he gives that speech at the end. That's unfucking believable. Where he talks about like how there should be peace in the world. There was like the tramp speaks. You know, that was like a Chaplin. It's an unbelievable speech. You can YouTube it. Look at Charlie the Great Dictator when he speaks at the end. It's unbelievable. And then he did basically the last film. One of his kids was like the King of New York. He was starting to get up there, and he does like and he just I knew like there's no way he can't do the kind of move. I mean, he did a couple comedic things where he's like counting the money real fast, and then he goes around the revolving door like real quick. But he's already getting older. That was like his farewell to. He called the King of New York, which was like supposed to be his son. I think he had a son. Michael Chaplin was in it. And then that was like he walked away from films. So he was already getting up there. And he lived, I think, another he lived until like into like the early mid 70s. Actually, gave some last interviews and stuff. He was like immortalized for pioneering, his ideas of starting the film. He didn't create the film business, but he was definitely like a pioneer of it. One of the first. He showed like what was possible. You know, a one man machine. A visionary. I forget how I moved into talking about the point of maybe it has to deal with taking risks. Like let's say, back then, there's no guarantees. You didn't know that the. Well, it's easy to say after the fact that what happened to the film business, but nobody knew. Maybe he did. When you're successful in anything, it's always easy to say after the fact. But when somebody doesn't make it, you either never hear from them, or because nobody knows an unsuccessful. The unsuccessful people are not promoted. For trying. It's like you're either rewarded for becoming, or you're just not. Was that guy that Psy that the Gangnam Style? He says the Gangnam Style. Do you? And everybody knows that song. It's a billion hits on YouTube. That the Gangnam Style. That's that stupid song. Got a billion views, right? You think that was the first thing that he ever did? The Korean guy or whatever had like 5 or 6 albums before that thing hit. 5 or 6. Some make nothing. You know how many people write scripts till something maybe hits? Maybe? It's hard. Maybe never. There's a writer, I think his name is Paul Haggis. He wrote film Crash, as well as Million Dollar Baby. That was his big one. And the deal with Million Dollar Baby was that he wrote a pretty solid rough draft, first draft for it, and Clint Eastwood, it got to him because some producer read it and was literally like crying. I mean, he said, "You got to read this thing." And Clint Eastwood saw it and he goes, "I want this script," and they bought it off of Haggis for $1 million. Gave him $1 million. That's why he called it Million Dollar Baby. Because he knew he called it that even before he sold it. Now, Paul Haggis is not brand new. Guy was writing episodes of Facts of Life in the 80s. It took that guy maybe close to 20 years to hit something like the $1 Million Baby. So he sold the script. Clint Eastwood stars as the manager. Morgan Freeman is in it, co-owner of the gym, and Hilary Swank was the $1 Million Baby, the chick, the boxer. I remember watching it on DVD, and you know, if you've seen it the first time and you're not like moved by this thing, then there's something. I'll tell you, I watched that thing now. It's like it's really depressing. Again, spoiler alert: if you've never seen it, don't watch any more of this. Go watch the movie and see what I'm talking about. But if you've seen it already, after the accident, it's like, you know, you're just like, emotional with that voice that Morgan Freeman's intense, the narration. They knew exactly what they were doing to hit you here. Now, here's the thing. Once the movie's over and you have a little bit of time to think about this, then the ridiculousness starts to set in of why it's so fun. But you see, you can't figure that out because when you're involved, when you're wrapped up in the story, you don't have enough time because the flow of the movie, you can't. Number one, in a world women's boxing title match, the champion is not going to sucker punch you after the bell or whatever, or any time, cued, disqualified. It just doesn't work that way. I'm very sorry. Even if they know they're losing. Okay, the exception was the Mike Tyson ear biting incident, but that got him DQ'd. And then the chair comes out. He puts out the chair like there, and she falls and breaks her neck on the side of it. I mean, it's the dumbest thing you can possibly imagine. But they move so fast. Next thing you know, she's in the hospital. You know, like she's a whatever comatose, coma or catatonic, or I don't know what, But you see, the way they did it was so fast that they hit you. You don't have time to make draw logical conclusions because of how fast the story is going and everything. But the point is that it took a struggling writer that long. Now he got $1 million for it, and you think that's it? How many Academy Awards did that movie win? Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Director. I've seen a thing like there's a roundtable, a couple years later, and it shows Hilary Swank, Morgan Freeman, and Clint Eastwood at a table. Each of them have Academy Awards for that movie. Wasn't sure. I don't know if Haggis got one for best screenplay. He might have. He might have. My point is, he didn't just write one script. He was writing fucking television, dumb TV shows in the 80s. It took him that fucking long. My writing mentor that passed away, he told me it took him 5 or 6 scripts, I think, for writing for The Man from U.N.C.L.E. till they finally bought one. Then he did a lot more. He went writing plays and working, Jack Nicholson. He wrote Going South. Jack Nicholson was connected with Jack Nicholson. Pictures of him at the Lakers games, front row with Nicholson. Sometimes it takes that type of seriousness and dedication to something to possibly make something. You could sit there, you could sit there and draw, till you're blue in the face. You could sit there and practice your craft till you're blue in the face. You could sit there out there doing street dancing so you're decades after blue, and you could do that forever. But without a better plan and understanding the business and trying to put it all together to package yourself, that's not going to happen. unless it's lightning in a bottle, unless a miracle happens, which it almost never does. There was some actress, she was in a bank, and she was just so pissed off that she wasn't an actress. It was thinking about getting into acting, and she was in the bank, and they wouldn't cash her check, and she was just like, well, just so happened there was a guy right next that was a casting agent. And said, "Boy, you really got, you could be an actress. You're so dramatic." And her ship came in. I know the reason it's so famous is because that's a lightning in a bottle. They call it hitting the lotto. It's a lightning in a bottle story. That doesn't happen. Okay, it doesn't happen except that time. But that guy danced on the street corner doesn't even have fucking DVDs, and that's like that's I didn't even say it about an agent or anything. Not clean, not thinking. You can't do everything forever. I'll give you another example. Everybody knows Eminem, the rapper, right? Well, Dr. Dre was, the famous, like he was with the NWA or whatever, and then he went off on his own. He did that album, The Chronic. That was a big thing. 2000, Snoop Dogg, and everything. Well, Snoop Dogg came out in '91, but anyway, so Dr. Dre. And you heard of this guy, there's this Eminem, this white rapper guy, and you would think, well, I don't know, that's competition. That's competition for me. I don't want any of that. Ah, that's how most people think. A threat, a competition is your threat. Instead of saying, you know what, I could push this guy. He's got the skills. I can make money off this guy. I could work with this guy. Because it's not just you're just not making money off of him. You're helping him to make money. And that's what happened. Collaboration. There's enough money out there, but the problem is a lot of people don't want to collaborate or help anybody because they're scared of somebody being a threat. They're scared of their own egos. But Dr. Dre knew, nah, I'm going to push this guy. I'm going to find a way to push this guy. And he did. He made a lot of fucking money off working with Eminem. And he snowballed that into the headphones, the Beats thing. Made a fucking fortune off that. Because he knew, he thought outside of just doing one thing, being a rapper. And that guy that I know dancing out there, he's just still just doing that. He's closed off for whatever reason. I you shouldn't have to tell somebody, if they're that old already and they don't know by then, I hate to say it, but it's too late. It's too late. I'm sorry to tell you, but I really think by like 50 years old, if you haven't been grinding away or trying to like do certain things, it's not going to happen. Now, don't get me wrong. I did not say you can't become successful after 50 years old. It's a big difference. There's a big difference. But if you haven't been like experimenting with this, trying this, that doesn't work, okay, change approach, do this. If you haven't been doing anything like that, then it's too late. It's not going to change. You're just, you're not doing anything different. You're just wasting time. You're just burning the clock. Colonel Sanders, KFC, I think it was like, 60 something years old, and he got a social security check. It was like nothing, and he was like, I got to do some shit, you know. And he went around every place, like in the South, with his chicken. He knew. He would go into these restaurants, and he said, like, I can make the best fried chicken that you've ever tasted. There's no doubt in my mind. And they were like, people like, come on, old men, if you give me a chance, you're not going to believe this. Okay, fine. And he makes fried chicken. They were like, you've got to be kidding me. And he went to another place, another restaurant. Said, if you'll let me work in your restaurant and sell my fried chicken, I'll give you samples. Okay. Another place said, okay. He had like a route. All these people started selling. And said, who is this guy? Well, this guy, Colonel Sanders. You got to be kidding me. They would drive. People would drive to this fucking all these places that had a chicken. And he took all that money and he made his first little diner. The rest is history. Another example is the author Eckhart Tolle wrote the book The Power of Now. I read it. Yeah. A pickup artist told me to read that book. So I did. My point about Eckhart Tolle was that he was basically, I think he was living in his mom's basement or something, broke, till he was 50. He hit with that book, some other books before, but he was grinding it out till something finally hit. If you're sincerely trying all these things, something will hit eventually. The examples I'm talking about are people that don't do nothing. They're not even trying. I have 4 college degrees. I just had a huge problem in my doctorate program. I'm contemplating, that I'd have to go somewhere else. I mean, they were all conspiring against me. It doesn't matter. Point is, I weigh the value of the degree. Like, what can you do with it? But you stop doing that, you have to do something else. You have to keep things going. That's the only way. That there's like this analogy where it shows like the gold mine, and the guy's like with the pickaxe of it, he's going, and there's other guys like he's close, and he just turns away, gives up. You were so close. He didn't know. He didn't know. He was like 3 feet away of hitting the vein, of hitting the mine. But he just gave up for whatever reason. And I want you to think about that. Think about like how long and how hard are you willing to persist to accomplish something? Is it worth it to you? Like, does it mean that much? I say whatever it is, I say it is because you get like one go around in this life, as far as I know. And it's like I think it's important because as you get older, you really can't. You only get so much time, to try to persevere and to make anything. And then when there's like no guarantees, it's like makes it that much more difficult. It really is. When you don't see, it's like if you go to the gym, and you don't see any quick like results, you'll be like, well, why do this? I mean, it's fucking hard. Not. But there's a book called The Compound Effect. Didn't read that one yet, but I read the summary of it, and it's like all that time, things add up little by little, compound interest. I still have fears, there's things that scare me. I'm not perfect, but I did hear a saying one time. It says, when you become fearless, you become limitless. I mean, of course, there's like weird examples. It will, be afraid to do anything. Well, you could jump off a cliff, be, not afraid, you die, be dead. Stupid comparison. But they said, like, in life, taking the proverbial jump, you're going to fall first before you can fly. You know, a lot of people not gonna they don't want that challenge, the drop first. There's this guy that I see that works at this Rite Aid, this older guy, and I cannot tell you how long this guy's been there. He's not even. I think he was cashier too, but maybe since the '70s he's been there. He just goes, sweeps up the trash, and there's a thing. I asked him. I said, "Man, you've been here a long time. You've been manager. You could have been manager or something." Like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. Wow. I've never tried to become nothing in life. That is that living, or is that just kind of existing and breathing? I want you to think about that. Are you living, or are you just kind of existing and breathing? What's the difference? The difference is, how are you challenging yourself in any facet, in any way of life? In your behaviors, how you deal with people, how have you challenged yourself, or are you just basically just doing the same shit all the time? Are you a complainer? Have you learned anything recently? Yeah, think about things. Anyway, it's been a little over an hour and a half, so I think we covered some lots of interesting uh, topics tonight. I like to do that. I like to go around things sometimes. Not just be so linear. I know it's important to stick to like a topic and stuff, but I like to equate everything to my life experiences, what I've seen. So hopefully, you people will um, get some takeaway from it. Till next time, my friends, this is Warrior Junior. Hang tough, be strong, and just be perseverant. Good things take time. Remember that. Sometimes it takes a long time. And the progress is so slow, you just don't see any of it. But I can assure you, you know, being diligent, it'll come.